Did you know that behind Peppa's cute cartoon there are real, terrifying stories? It may not sound true, but reality is much stranger than fiction. During the time of London's most stylish clothing, a poor single father who was a priest at the local church worked hard to take care of his daughter. He was working on the farm of a wealthy landowner in the area, who specifically asked for his presence to take care of his wife's illness. And look, the disease was very suspicious, and it even seemed like the woman was crazy. Pretty scary, right? Because of that, our single father named Gascoigne spent a lot of time away from home, since the farm wasn't very close to town, and there were no cars at that time. So he asked his best friend to check on Pippa, his daughter, who stayed home alone all that time. They talked through the window because Pippa was very obedient and never let anyone inside the house. After seeing that it was her father's friend, she would let him pass food and things like that through the window. Just like when Peppa got food at the drive-thru, remember?
Almost!
One day, Gascoigne confessed to his friend that the problem had been solved, that his employer's wife's exorcism was complete, and that he had transferred the spirit into a large pig they had on the farm, which would soon be slaughtered. But that's just the beginning of the origin story that turned Pippa Gascoigne into Peppa Pig. And soon, we'll tell you the rest. So if you're brave enough, turn off the lights, wrap yourself in a warm blanket, and get your popcorn ready to watch this creepy video about the real story behind Peppa's characters, right here on Zigzag. Before telling you the rest of Peppa's story, we need to remember that there are other characters too, like George. And man, he also has a pretty tragic origin story, but this one took place in another time, back in the 80s. The family of little George, who was only 2 years old at the time, was going through a lot of financial difficulties. And as the years went by and the boy grew older, he understood why his parents fought so much. He wasn't surprised when they gave him the news that they would need to move to a cheaper place. But the sad news came with something exciting. They were going to a farm where he could help take care of the animals he loved, especially the chickens and pigs. George thought this would be the solution to his family's problems, but just like little Pippa, he found himself alone for long periods of time, since his parents had to go into town to sell everything they produced before coming back home. And indeed, his friends became the pigs and other farm animals, as many people who saw the boy spending so much time in the barn would say, and you won't believe what happens next. But speaking of Pippa, we need to continue her story, don't you think? During one of the priest's friends' visits, he found it strange when he knocked on Pippa's window and got no response. Pippa usually opened the curtains very quickly, and upon checking the place, he noticed small footprints from a child's little boots in the mud. That made him very worried, because the girl's father had warned that he would take a bit longer to come back home, since the pig they had transferred the evil spirit into had escaped from the pen, and no one could find it. And as he followed Pippa's footprints, which led toward the farm, the priest's friend's eyes widened when he saw something that changed his life forever. Can you guess what he saw? Then tell us in the comments using the hashtag #fear. Everyone knows that Madame Gazelle from Peppa Pig is a vampire. But what nobody knows is that the origin story of Peppa's beloved teacher has a real-life side that blurs the line between reality and imagination. Her real name was Grazina Petrescu, and just like Madame Gazelle, she was from Romania. She was also a teacher, but the children didn't like her very much because she was very strict and had a strange appearance and odd habits. Her face was extremely pale and she was very thin. She didn't let anyone open the curtains during the day because she said the light hurt her eyes. Her teeth were grayish and her gums were very red, and for some reason, she simply hated the smell of garlic. All of this might sound like the description of a vampire, but there's actually a medical condition for that called porphyria, which is a disease that messes up your blood and was the biggest inspiration for the creation of the vampire myth. I bet you didn't know that, huh? But going back to the story of little Pippa, the priest's friend saw something that changed his life forever. On her way to the farm, the girl decided to take a shortcut through an abandoned tunnel, and there she came across something relentless: the possessed pig. The poor priest's friend quickly understood what had happened when he saw those red eyes in the darkness, because the animal's whole face was covered in red. There were bits of Pippa's clothes everywhere, and at his feet was the little red bow the girl liked to wear in her hair. He called the police to investigate the place, and they soon put down the pig that had attacked everyone. Meanwhile, he went to deliver the news to his friend, since he believed the priest should hear it from him and not from strangers. But Gascoigne didn't take the news well. After spending so much time dealing with supernatural matters, hearing that was too much for him, and he ended up attacking his friend, completely insane. His friend had no choice and ended up fatally injuring the priest, who then joined Pippa in heaven. He was arrested because of it, but was soon released due to the circumstances of the situation, and because he was only defending himself. And it was the drawings that Pippa made alone at home that inspired the creators of Peppa Pig to take all that tragedy and turn it into something good for children. But then you might be wondering, what about George? Come along and I'll tell you too. One night, after an entire month of hardships, George simply stopped talking to his parents because all they did was yell at each other and try to turn the boy against the other. His father said it was his mother's fault, and she said the same about him, which only made the little boy even more confused, to the point where he truly began to think that his only friends were the animals. On that traumatic night, George escaped in the middle of the night and went to the barn to sleep with his friends. The animals were already used to him coming and going, so they weren't surprised to see him there at that hour. But the animals started to get agitated when George's parents came near, already ready for another fight. And when the door opened and the shouting began at the boy, it seemed like all the pigs, horses, and cows inside started trying to escape. And the worst part? They succeeded. All the animals ran out at once through the only exit, and the result of that only became clear later. George had been trampled by the stampede, and his parents had to live with that guilt. We have one more tragic story to tell you, but before that, take a second to subscribe to the channel and remember that all of this inspired your favorite cartoon, which gives a much lighter and happier twist to these stories, don't you think? Evelina Piggott was born in 1972, the second daughter of a family living in a small village near Canterbury. Her father worked in a factory that made educational toys, and her mother was a nurse. Evelina was born premature, and from a very young age, she had a respiratory condition that made her fragile. But she was a cheerful, talkative, and curious child. During the months she spent isolated at home, her mother began telling her stories to keep her entertained. Evelina's favorites were about a family of little pigs who lived on sunny hills and went on picnics on nice days. She called the smallest piglet in those stories Evie, saying that it was her, a little pig who loves to play but gets tired quickly. Evelina kicked the primordial bucket at the age of 5 on a cold January night. After her passing, her father kept drawing the family of little pigs she had loved so much. And years later, one of his sketches ended up being displayed at a children's toy fair. An animation producer saw the drawing, and from there came the inspiration for a small, cheerful, and sweet piglet named Evie Pig, who recently made her debut in Peppa's show as a tribute to this sad story. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments.